All right, so hi and welcome to our second interview. Today, Sean from Tool House is going to be talking to us about setting boundaries. Sean has 31 years in Montessori, 14 of those as a head of school. So she's got a bucket load of experience in helping children and parents. She's also a positive discipline trainer and has a master's degree in transformational leadership and coaching. So I really look forward to this conversation. How
Yeah,
are
well,
you?
it was so fun to be able to connect with you over Facebook. That's one of the nice things that's happened since the whole, shutdown is we've figured out ways to, continue to do our work, our great work and supporting schools and parents and also getting to know each other. So this has been great. And it's so nice to have a friend like you across the continent, all the way in Africa. And then, last time we spoke, you talked about peacemaking, which we're both Montessorian. So that's, really, really important in our work
Yeah,
in terms of, supporting Maria Montessori's vision and goal of really kind
very,
of
very
help.
definitely. I think that's one of
Yeah.
the things I like about Montessori people is that no matter where they are in the world, you have basic principles that you can always fall back on. So you always have something to talk about, and everyone has, their own experiences that they bring to the table. And it makes for such a rich discussion. It's really, really awesome.
Yes, I agree. I agree. So today I wanted to talk a little bit. I just kind of like pick a little nugget. And as you were saying, Laura, so I have Montessori, positive discipline, and also coaching. So I try to pick little nuggets for these particular um, tool videos that are going to allow somebody to take the information and start applying it immediately, and hopefully,
Yeah,
help
that's
them in
awesome.
their work. Because parenting is really, really hard. Teaching is very stressful and challenging as well. Although I found, I have 3 children myself, that being my best self and applying these tools consistently is harder for me to do as a parent than it is at school. And I think there's that emotional abstraction too. When you're with
Yeah,
students that are not your own, you
it's a
don't have that
lot
same kind of
easier.
emotional intensity. So, I have a lot of compassion and a lot of, empathy for parents because I've been through it all, as you have. So it's challenging and it's hard, and these little tools are tools that you can take, and if you don't practice them and apply them, then they sort of go away. So that's my other, little nugget that I like to encourage is that, yes, you take these tools and you start using them and you keep using them, and
Yeah,
then you
that's
talk to
that's
other
really
parents about
important.
using them and how they can positively impact your family. So, setting boundaries and limits, that's huge, right? Like there's so many ways that we can approach that and so many ways that we can talk about that. And so one tool that I wanted to share today specifically that I think is very helpful with that is it has to do with being consistent and predictable.
Mm-hmm.
So when children see us as consistent and predictable and they know how we're going to show up and they know what they're going to get from us, it helps them feel safe.
Yeah.
And when they're safe, they tend to test the boundaries and limits a little bit less. So this particular tool is called Kind and Firm at the Same Time.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a positive discipline tool. It's actually Alfred Adler, it's an Adlerian
Yeah.
concept that Jane Nelson borrowed, when she was creating her, positive discipline model. And so what I love about this is it really changed my relationship, not only with my own children, but with people in general.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to do with acknowledging and affirming people's feelings and making sure that you acknowledge them, um, accept them, appreciate them, affirm them, and then you still set your boundary and your limit. And if people know that that's the way you're going to interact with them all the time, then it really takes a lot of the guesswork out of
Yeah.
what they're going to get from you.
It's so much
Um,
easier when you know what to expect from people. And I
mhm.
always tell my teachers and also the children, you know, you don't have to be mean when you say no. You're not trying to ruin the other person's day. It's just,
Right.
this is where you set your boundary and you understand the other person and you feel for them, but
Yeah.
that's just the way it is.
Yes, I totally agree. And so I think one of the mistakes that, we make as adults, or some habits maybe that we get into, is that if things are going really, really well and, everybody's behaving, for lack of a better way to say it, and kind of following suit, then we tend to be really kind, and we tend to, be a little bit more open and permissive. And then when things are a little more chaotic, we get really, really firm and the kindness goes away. So I think we have a tendency to be either kind or firm, depending upon the situation. And really the magic here is kind and firm at the same time all the time, especially with young children and adolescents, because they're needing consistency, routine, and order.
Yeah.
And, when we can provide that kind of structure, and it doesn't have to be, once you practice it a few times, it becomes, organic, so that it doesn't
Yeah.
feel orchestrated or, manipulated.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you mean.
So I have a couple of examples here, that I'm just going to read off this, paper here, because they're perfect examples of ways that you can either validate somebody's feelings or show understanding or acknowledge and affirm and then set the boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to listen for the magic word when I read these. Okay. So I can tell you are upset about something and it is time to be working on your project. I'm available after school if you'd like to talk about why you're so upset. I can understand why you would rather be doing something else right now, and it is time for dinner. You don't want to do your homework, and I don't want you to fail. Let's talk about a time. Let's find time to talk about what it is needed for you to be able to get this done. I know you find it hard to do your chores and to get to bed before midnight. And what was our agreement about when these things would get done? And I know you would prefer to read comic books right now, but it is quiet time. Would you like me to hold on to your comic books, or would you like to put them away? I know you want to keep talking to your friends, and it is time for math. I will start teaching when you are ready. So some of these are parent directed, and some of these are teacher directed, because I wanted to be able to provide examples for both. So did you hear what the magic word was there?
Yes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the word and, where most
Yes.
people would use but.
Yes. And so the reason why I really like this activity is we often are inclined to maybe affirm and acknowledge and then say but, which takes away the affirmation. So if I was to say, I can tell you're upset about something, but it's time to get working on your project.
Then your upset means nothing.
You don't feel affirmed anymore. And so really trying to take that word but out of your vocabulary is huge. And, anything with parenting, I know you don't like to take your bath at night, and we did decide that this was a non-negotiable. Would you like to take your bath before dinner or after dinner? And so what that does is acknowledges and affirms, and it helps them feel valuable. We're always striving to help children feel capable, valuable, and powerful, helps them feel valuable. And you're also bringing them into the process of, problem solving for much of it, and oftentimes giving them choices. So, setting the boundary comes second. So you can either validate their feelings, show understanding, redirect them, follow through on an advanced agreement. So you can come up with agreements with your children or your students, and then fall back on them. Oh, do you remember our agreement? But always using the word and. Oh, also providing choice is really important. Would you like me to hold your comic books for you, or would you like to put them away yourself? And that works really well with young children.
Yeah,
I know you want to keep
because
playing, and it's time for school. Would you like to get dressed now, or would you like to get dressed before breakfast or after breakfast? Something
that's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the choices is it really empowers the children, because they get to feel like they're a part of the process. Obviously, you'd
Yes,
have to be careful to provide choices that are in line with the boundaries you're setting, right? Otherwise, the
exactly.
boundaries useless.
Yeah. And you brought up a good point, because that whole, yes, you're empowering them to make the choice themselves, which also helps them feel capable
Mm,
and also helps them develop their critical thinking skills.
yeah,
So if we're telling people what to do all the time, then they don't develop problem solving skills, and they also don't make mistakes. And that's the other thing too, is sometimes, when you're talking with your children and you come to agreements, sometimes you have to worry less about the product and more about the process.
mm,
So allowing, sometimes if your child or your student really thinks that this is going to work, and you can tell it's not manipulation, it's really authentic, and you're like, oh, it's not going to work. I don't think that's going to work.
yeah,
Just go ahead and try it anyway, because they learn so much from the whole process of trying it and failing,
yeah.
and then going back to the drawing board. Yeah, so being kind and firm at the same time all the time. So we're not kind or firm.
We're
We're
both.
kind and firm at the same time all the
Yeah,
time. And it feels warm and, loving and accepting, when I'm
yeah, totally.
affirming and acknowledging, setting the boundary.
Yeah, I think that's a really useful tip for parents and teachers, because so often, um, if there's an argument or the children don't listen to what you want them to do, then it becomes a power struggle, and
Mm-hmm.
it often ends up with, you do this because I said so. And I think for the most part, that's down to the reason that parents and teachers sometimes just don't
Yes.
know how else to handle a situation. Nobody's ever shown them that you don't have to struggle with the power difference. If you
Mm-hmm.
show that empathy, like you said, if you affirm the children's views and feelings, and I mean, it works with other adults too,
It sure does. Yeah.
it's so much easier to get to the same level of understanding.
And it's all about respect too,
Mm,
right? So when you're engaging in power struggles with them, it invites rebellion or shutdown.
yeah,
And that is not bringing forth cooperation, and any kind of aligned motivation. It's keeping you polarized and like widening that canyon between you instead of narrowing it.
mm,
Um, and so, I always try to think about capable, valuable, and powerful, is my interaction with this person, whether, and definitely it's important for children, but
yeah,
anybody really. Is it helping them feel capable, valuable, and powerful?
yeah.
And
I
am I
really,
feeling
really
capable?
like those three words: capable,
Hmm.
valuable, and powerful. I think that's a good little mantra to keep at the back of your mind.
Yeah, it's that comes from Stephen Glenn, who
Okay.
wrote out, he's a psychologist that wrote books, Raising Self-Reliant Children in a Self-Indulgent World. And he
Hmm.
also made videos and does a lot of teaching around the whole, well, he's deceased now, but a lot of teaching around the whole concept of capable young people. So really beautiful.
Okay,
It's such great fun.
wonderful. Okay, so that was it then for today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so
And
much
we're
for
going to do
sharing
it
that with
again
us,
soon,
Sean.
I'm sure.
Definitely. You guys can look forward to the next installment. Bye, everyone.
Bye.